absolutely crushes it in the field as an agent, top agency manager, has trained many people. And I think he's going to do a workshop on appointment setting. Let's go.
Yes,
Jamie
sir.
Curio, thank you so much, man. Take it away.
Well, I have to start with some humor. So Nick just did Nick always does these edifications that make me uncomfortable because I don't feel like I'm that cool. But last night, I had an appointment come in for a 9 p.m. appointment. Now, I block out my calendar. I don't normally have 9 p.m. available, but I get this appointment last night, 9 p.m. I get on, I do my whole thing, and probably 35, 40 minutes in, the call just cuts out. And I'm like, what's going on? So I'm calling, trying to get back on with this guy, and I get a call from a different phone number, but same area code. And I'm like, hello? I'm like, hey, this is and like, who this is Jamie. Who is this? Like, oh, this is so and so. I'm like, I don't know so and so. He goes, well, you're about to. He goes, I'm actually an agency manager, and we were messing with you last night, or we were messing with you, and we just wanted to hear your pitch. And I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. So some guy last night, I got really angry at him over the phone. I probably said some things that I shouldn't say. I got really offended. And the reason I got really offended is because I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and I take this business so seriously. And that was somebody that was truly like giving my all to help them with insurance. And then after I got mad, after we hung up the phone, after my wife was like, you probably shouldn't have yelled at that guy because he was trying to recruit me, of course. Um, I thought to myself, who is this person to tell me, who has sat with 2,000 plus clients in the home, dialed the phone thousands and thousands, 10,000s of hours, that wasn't even actually a real lead, that my pitch was 7 out of 10, and I got really offended. And I bring that all up. It was funny. I was angry, but at the end of the day, like, I got offended because this was someone in the industry who was judging me. But at the end of the day, the leads that we're talking to, that we're booking appointments with, they don't know who you are. It doesn't matter what you say. Like, this person might have, followed me on social media. Who knows what this person does? This person might have a weird taste in their mouth about me for the rest of their life because I yelled at them about how I spent $50 on this lead and you wasted my time. Probably shouldn't have yelled at them. But at the end of the day, the person on the other side of the phone who raised their hand, who actually wants insurance, um, they're out there. And there's going to be people who are going to reject you. There's going to be people who are going to say crazy things. And we just have to, I got emotional. And the whole idea here is we're not supposed to be emotional. We're supposed to keep it moving. So, all that to say, today we're going to talk a little bit about dialing the phone. We're going to talk about appointment setting versus one call closing. I'll kind of intro it like this. Dialing is the number one skill and the number one discipline that I think most agents lack, that are not finding success. And it's like it's the beginning of the pipeline. Like, a lot of people, they want to figure out how to become really good at selling, but if you cannot discipline yourself to dial, with John Wetmore on last week, the activity side of things, it doesn't matter how good you are at, talking about the benefits of life insurance. So, I think it's the most important thing to develop in the long term, especially if you're going to build an agency, because you need to be able to teach people how to dial. We're going to talk a little bit here before I get into some documents that we'll share with everybody in the Discord and in the chat after this, about when it's a good time maybe to get a dialer and when you should continue to dial. But I think the problem most agents have is they get into this business and they see, top producers, they see like Derek Robeson, and they go, I want to know the secret knowledge that, Derek has. If you understand who Derek is, you get to know him a little bit. He just dials the phone more than anybody. And that's why his numbers, look so good. People want the shortcut to helping, 30 families a month. They want to know how they can buy 15 leads and book 15 appointments and, be off the phone in 2 hours and have zero no-shows and sell all 15 appointments that they sit with. And if that's the training, if you guys are really looking for like the magic words that makes everybody say yes, it's a good time to log off because this is not that training. There's really only three basics that we're going to even talk about when it comes to selling insurance, and it's the skills of buying the leads, dialing the phone, and talking to people about insurance. That's it. We buy enough leads, we have enough activity, we dial the phone, we talk to people about insurance. And all the time, agents, they talk to me and they get really caught up in, well, I just want to figure out the best leads to dial. I see that you're dialing, trucker leads. I see that so and so is doing mortgage protection. I see that so and so is doing nurse leads, whatever. At the end of the day, there's preferences. You'll find your favorites. You'll find things that you flow on. But these are just people who are requesting life insurance. And like anybody out there who doesn't understand this concept, I think this is a really big one. Once you get somebody to say yes, that they're interested in either booking an appointment or yes, like that transition point to starting a one call close, that lead is worth the same to you as any other lead. Whether I paid $100 for this high intent lead or I paid 50 cents for this lead. Now, the biggest difference between, how much money I spent on a lead and the amount of time it takes to get a hold of somebody, typically those are congruent. At the end of the day, if I buy only 50-cent leads, my amount of dials and hearing the dial tone is going to be a lot more than if I buy $50 leads. It's just it's part of this business. So spending more money on leads, spending more money on higher intent leads, the only thing that's going to do is it's typically going to get you people who filled it out more recently, people where it's at the top of their mind. But at the end of the day, if we don't have that skill set of being able to dial, being assumptive, taking somebody from they're already interested to taking control and helping them book that appointment or starting that presentation, then it doesn't matter. One of the things I will say is that the people who've been here for a long time that have gotten to the point where they're maybe working all real-time leads. Yeah, I would love if everybody could get to the point where they're working real-time leads, but everybody, Sheila, Quentin, and then the list goes on and on. They started working aged leads. And I'll tell you right now, when they dialed these aged leads, people who were like, I don't even know who you are, what you're talking about, and they learned how to take control of those people and take somebody from, not interested, but used to be interested to bringing it back to the top of their mind to either booking an appointment or starting a presentation. Like when you learn that skill set to take someone who's a year old and pivot back into an appointment with somebody, when you do get the real time leads, like it's like the biggest breath of fresh air in the world. But when you go ahead and you only work real time leads, and then maybe you fall on hard times and you start dialing aged leads because you have a hard week, you don't have like that grit built up. Live dials was a really big thing for me when I first got started. To get those objections live, to hear the crazy things that clients would say. And like my goal was just to keep people on the phone. That's it. Just keep people on the phone. If I could just keep them on the phone just a little bit longer. And that's a skill set that you're going to learn. So again, everyone wants to figure out, what are the best leads to dial? They want to figure out, where are the leads that everyone's going to say yes, the leads that all answer the first time, the leads who are always interested with no objections, the ones who they want to, I'll spend, $200 and I'm fill up my schedule with 40 appointments. Like those leads don't exist. A lead's a lead is a lead. And once a lead is turned into an appointment or turned into a presentation, it's worth the exact same no matter what you paid for it on the front end. So we're going to dig into some different leads tonight and we'll talk about different intros and stuff, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I think that's a big thing is that people will get really caught up. I'll have people who are like, Jamie, I got to know what's your trucker script. I'm like, it's the exact same as my final expense script, my mortgage script, and my IUL script. I just changed literally the reason why I'm calling. Hey, Sheila, this is Jamie getting back to you about the fill in the blank. Nothing changed. Like people get really caught up in that. Yeah, maybe the presentation, maybe there's a few different nuances. Like once we start the presentation, we're not going to dig deep into the presentation today. All we're going to be talking about is getting people on the phone, keeping them on the phone, and either one, taking control and booking an appointment, or two, taking control, being assumptive, and doing a one call close. That's it. That's where we're going to pause. We're not going to go past that. I'll give you guys some resources here at the end with some like presentation structures and stuff for different lead types. But at the end of the day, agents will come to me and they're just like, man, if I just improved my closing ratio and I learned all the right things to say in the presentation, then I'd have a better return on my investment. I would argue to say that you can just kind of trip and fall. And if you have 10 appointments, you can sell two of them. If out of 10 leads, I would say 2 out of 10 are going to buy from you just about no matter what out of 10 appointments, not just 10 leads. 2 out of 10 are never going to buy from you no matter what you do. And the other six, like that's where the skill set comes in. Like the top producers who can convert those six in the middle. So two, you're just going to sell no matter what. Two, you're not going to sell no matter who you are. And the other six, if I can have 10 appointments and sell 6 or 7, then that's a big deal. But at the end of the day, let's say I'm the person who, let's put it like this. Um, you know, so let's say you ask for advice on how you can improve your presentation. That's obviously not even what you need help with. Um, we talk about improving our closing ratio, but if we get more appointments, and let's say we're having a competition, let's say it's me versus you in a competition on who's going to sell the most premium this week. You're like, okay, there's no way I can beat Jamie because he closes 7 out of 10 and he regularly helps 10, 12 families a week. You can beat me by outworking me. It sounds like a very simple thing, but one of our old mentors through YouTube that we used to listen to in the past, Jim Rohn, he said you make up in numbers what you lack in skill. So you decide that you're going to book 40 to 50 appointments in a week, or you're going to dial till you get 30 presentations, regardless of how long that it takes. And if I do 10 appointments and close seven, but you're like, I'm going to do 30 appointments, you can beat me. And here's the thing, John talked about it last week, is that when we're condensing time frames, we don't take account for momentum and how much better that we get. So even if you're closing 2 out of 10 and you're like, well, you did 10 appointments and I did 30, and you closed 7 out of 10 and I closed 2 out of 10, that means I'll only close 6 out of 30 appointments. Not necessarily, because when you do 30 appointments, something happens with momentum and confidence, and you'll probably actually double me because you did 3 times as much activity as me. Like it's a whole crazy thing. So like the way that I got better at closing was not by focusing on improving my presentation. It was by just getting more appointments. And if I have more appointments, if I have more swings, it's almost impossible to not get better because you'll just get angry that you're not helping people with insurance. So it's like the first step is, can I fill my schedule? And if I can fill my schedule, then the presentation is going to come after. And just really in general, everything in the business comes down to the phones. I think it's the number one epidemic in this business. People say things like, I hate dial day. I love this business, but I hate dialing the phone. I wish I could just have a bunch of appointments booked for me, because I love the presentation part. I just can't focus, sit down in my chair long enough. I've heard it all. I've been there. As agents, I think just in general, we try to find ways to avoid the work. We try to find shortcuts. And there's no shortcut. People will look at me right now and they'll see, on a good day, I might have 15 or 20 appointments booked in a day. And they're like, when are you dialing? I'm like, well, I dial when I get no-showed. I dial when I have light dial days. And I do appointments only, but I have someone helping me. So people go, well, how do I get there? Well, it's not do what I do, say what I say, get what I get. It's do what I did, say what I said, and then you can get, where I'm at. It took time. I was the person for probably 4 years that was against having somebody help me set appointments. Totally against it, wanted no help whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I found that my time is better spent presenting. But I've got a dialer, I've had to train them. And also, I've got new agents that I need to train on how to dial because dialers cost money. We talk about the time money pendulum, all that stuff. But here's the deal: what happens when my dialer has a bad week and my schedule is not filled? Well, I get on the phone and I start dialing. Yeah, if anyone's ever seen the Billy Madison, where he's like, you got to get your ass out there and find that dog. Like, you got to get on the phone and start dialing at the end of the day, because I can't leave it up to anybody else. Yeah, if my schedule's packed, I'll take the appointments, absolutely, but I'm not going to leave it up to anyone else. So I look back at my last week. I had some days that were full and some days that weren't. I think I submitted 6 applications last week. I think 2 of those ended up being one call closes. These are people that just no one showed up. I had a couple appointments that closed, and I had a bunch of gaps that I just started calling through my leads and one call closing. So we'll talk about that. But at the end of the day, you have to actually, enjoy this. In my previous background, before I got into insurance, I was in a business where, I was more in like a manager role and I could build a passive income where I didn't really have to like do much of like the trench work, like dialing. So I had a really hard time when I first got here to sit down and dial, to do the dirty work, and just kind of get in the trenches. And I made this post probably 5 years ago in a Facebook group that just resurfaced that I wanted to share with you guys. This was like an old insurance Facebook group, and it says the only difference between someone who is producing at a high level and someone who isn't is that they believe in themselves and the skills they've developed enough to buy leads every week. More leads equals more appointments in a short period of time equals shortening the learning curve, shorten the learning curve, gain confidence in what we do, and you'll be able to make money at will. If you took everything away from me and gave me $1,000, I have confidence to bet on myself that I could flip that into 4 to 7 policies minimum. If you aren't confident enough to bet on yourself, you haven't run enough appointments yet. You just need to get over the hump of the learning curve, and then this business is so much fun. It's just math. How many leads do I need to buy to get 40 appointments? Sit on 20, sell 10. That's it. If you could go from spending $1 to making $2 to $3 to spending $1 to making 7 to 10, wouldn't you be willing to do literally anything to learn that skill set? If you go and buy 100 leads, let's say, and they're $10 a piece, all you got to do is sell one to break even. If you can't believe in yourself enough to sell one and reinvest and try again next week until you figure it out, then this business might not be the right fit for you. Do the work, gain the confidence, bet on yourself every week, 40 appointments a week, and you can't fail. I believe anyone can do this. You're one decision away from getting to the hard part and climbing over the first hill to never have to worry about making money again. When you have the confidence in this skill set, the question is not how do I make money? The question is how much money do I want to make and how hard am I willing to work for it? And I think that's just it's so true. Learn the skill set and everything else will fall into place. So long intro. We're going to get to some of the scripts, I promise. But anybody who's found success, again, can agree, leads are leads. It just comes down to personal responsibility. I can't control what people on the other side of the phone, if they're in a good mood or a bad mood, if they're mean to me. I can't control if they fill out the request looking for a quote and now they're mad their phone's blowing up, or if they really just wanted to buy life insurance today. The only thing that I can get better at is I can get better on the phone. I can control the story that I tell myself about the leads. The story that we tell ourselves is powerful because the person did fill out the form. We are not in the friends and family business. We are in the lead business. And when you start believing the BS story that you tell yourself that these leads aren't interested, that they didn't fill it out, you're going down a slippery slope and you're on your way out of this business, especially if you believe that story long enough. It's not about did they fill it out? It's not about how interested, or if they're interested, it's how interested are they? How far back is this in their mind? Like, can I bring this back to the top of their mind? At some point, this was important to them. So personal responsibilities, it's not the leads, it's me. It's not the leads, it's you. So the common denominator in the phone calls we make, it's us. We can get better. It's not the leads. We can take personal responsibility and understand that every person who says, no, I'm not interested, I've got it taken care of, F off, whichever it is, it's not them, it's still us. Because if you gave the exact same stack of leads to someone else, I guarantee you someone else could help them. I've sat down at lock-ins, I've sat down in offices where someone's like, no one's answering. And then someone else goes, let me see. And they dial through 10 of the leads and go book 2 appointments. And they're like, hey, it's not the leads, it's you. So we have to have that mindset. And secondly, we have to just have the mindset, again, it's a numbers game. I don't need everyone to say yes, but the more swings I have, the better chances I have to book all my appointments. And again, if everyone who filled it out bought, they wouldn't be called leads. They'd be called sales and everyone would do this. So like everyone doesn't do this. Like this is a lead business. Like we don't just buy people that are going that are just automatic sales. Like we still have to do the work. We still have to work the leads. And guess what? It is still 100% better, 1,000,000% better than convincing my friends and family or cold prospecting people in a parking lot at a mall or putting up flyers on the side of the road, handing out business cards at my local networking event. Like leads are still 100% better than convincing people who are not interested to make them interested. I think of people who are in door to door right now and they go into a neighborhood and they take somebody from not interested to interested. And those people are so incredibly skilled. And that's why when people come here into life insurance from door to door, they usually crush it because they're like, this is crazy. The people are actually interested. Like for them, even the person who was like a year old, that they're like, yeah, maybe I might have filled that out a year ago, but I got that taken care of. For them is still 1,000% better than taking someone who has no idea what you're talking about and educating them and getting them interested. So now that we've agreed, that it's all just proper mindset. At the end of the day, it's just work. This is the last thing I'll talk about before we jump into some specific scripts here. I would take the person on my team who's horrible on the phones, who's willing to dial the phone 700 times a day and get better than the person who gets bored after 50 dials or feels like they're too good for it. This business is skill versus will. I'll take the person with the willpower over the person with the skill any day because we can coach the person with the willpower and make them a champion in this business. On the other hand, a prima donna that isn't going to work and has a bad attitude, we can't coach to that. So let me jump into a document here that we're going to share in the Discord and probably on the Launchpad Elite Champ. Um, some of this looks probably familiar if you were at the Ignite event. We talked a little bit about this already. Lies agents tell themselves, I love this business, but I hate dialing the phone. I wish I could just do presentations all the time. That's the fun part. I just can't, focus and sit down in the chair long enough. We talked a little bit about this as well. This is the John Wetmore. Agents believe if they increase their closing ratio, that's the key to success in this business. The reality is they need to increase their activity. Their focus should be on increasing, number one, their percentage of appointments booked. So if 100 people answer the phone, what percentage of those people do I book an appointment with? Or your percentage of converting an answered phone call into a one call close presentation. Okay, those are the only two things that we can really focus on. If people answer the phone, like obviously we have to press the green button. We have to click the purple button, whatever dialer you use. I don't know, you use your cell phone, use a power dialer. You got to click the button and you have to sit in your chair. And some people are going to answer and some people aren't. And obviously you got dial cadences and all of these things. But if you sit there and you dial for 8 hours, someone's going to answer the phone at some point. I sure hope. Most of the time they do. The only thing that we can control is of the people who answer the phone, what percentage of those people did we convert either into an appointment or convert into a presentation? That's it. Those are the things that we can control. That's the stuff that we're going to talk about. Some of the realities of calling leads, we went over a few of these, but again, the lead did fill out the form. They are interested. All objections are a smokescreen. Your job's to increase credibility and reduce sales pressure. We'll talk a little bit about that. They don't like telemarketers, so don't act like one. This is just like a little random side tangent here. But when I first got started, one of the biggest things that helped me, I was dialing aged internet leads. So these are people who had filled something out, maybe in the last week to a month to 3 months. And when you get an internet lead, this is someone who like goes onto a quote tool and they're just getting that lead gets resold 100 times. Their phone is blowing up. So I would call people and I'd be like, "Hey, Nick, this is Jamie. Your phone's probably been blowing up with phone calls from telemarketers about this life insurance thing. I'm actually the manager calling to apologize. I'm so sorry you've gotten so many phone calls. But I'm actually the manager just calling to review to see did anyone get that taken care of?" And it's like you do something like that again. That's just one of many things you can do. It's more of the posture. Uh, a telemarketer doesn't sound like that. So don't act like one. They're looking for someone to lead, guide, and direct them. I keep talking till they hang up, especially on live dials. That was something that was super big for me. Is I didn't want to be like the dog with the tail between my legs, where someone would be like, "I'm not interested." I'm like, "Okay, have a good day," and then move on to the next one. I would want to actually try. And like we'll go through a slide here called the AAA method, where we acknowledge, answer, and ask. And it's just a quick pivot. It's being able to kind of catch whatever BS that they have, acknowledge it, and throw it right back at them and get back on the line of taking control. I used to watch one of my mentors in the beginning. He would like just by asking a question, he would take back control of the phone call. And he like proved it. He would sit there and he was like, "I can ask any question. That question doesn't even have to be about like the appointment." They'd be like, I'm not interested either, blah, 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 blah. "And what color is your car?" Like, "Blue." And they'd be like, "Anyways." And it didn't even matter what was being said. If they answered the question, he was back in control. Um, Obviously dialing until we have a full schedule. If they're asking questions, they're in control. If you're asking questions, you're in control. And of course, every call is an opportunity to get better. Sean Mike, dialing equals freedom. Couldn't agree more. This is big. Mindset, tone, and pace. Now, when we were doing in-homes, it was a little bit different than telesales. When we were doing in-homes, a word that I would put on here that I probably wouldn't put on here now is like uninterested, because with the in-home, it was like, "Hey, they just make me come out to your house to get you this information." With the telesale, it's just a little bit different. So I don't really take the uninterested approach or like the monotone and bored approach, but very assumptive, very direct, very controlled. and very busy. Like they're busy, I'm busy. Hey, I'll have you off the phone in 30 seconds. Like something like that is a pattern interrupt. Hey, I got about 15 to 20 appointments tomorrow. I think I can squeeze you in. What do you prefer, morning or afternoon? And we'll talk about a few of these little things. Busy is very important. Controlled. Controlled is the person who's asking questions. Direct. I used to have this very long and drawn out um, appointment booking, and it's become more and more direct over the years. I think it's also important to if you're setting appointments, you don't want to, just quick set is what we call it all the time. You do it if you can tell that somebody is trying to get off the phone. Something's better than nothing, but learning to be direct when you need to be direct. And then very assumptive. Hey, most people fill this out because, is that what you were looking for or something different? Very, very assumptive. So we'll break into some of the keys of setting an appointment. And then we'll jump to some of the keys of the one call close. We'll go through the AAA method. And then, just for bonus, I'll show you guys some of the stuff that we do on our, IUL presentations versus our term and our whole life. And we're going to continue to expand this document so you guys will have access to it. But all right, setting an appointment. Think of this like a straight line. And my goal is just to hit each checkpoint. And what's going to happen, and we'll kind of jump slide to slide here. Here's the straight line. Start, appointment booked. The client maybe is going to say something that's going to throw you off the line. They're going to try to get you out in left field and get off the phone, tell you they're not interested, tell them, they already got it taken care of, whatever that thing is. And my goal is to basically pivot and get back on the line. We'll come back to this a little bit more in depth and go through it. But like these are my checkpoints. These are the things that I'm able to take control with and always come back to. So, who I am and why I'm calling. Sheila, this is Jamie calling you because you requested more info on, the life insurance for truckers online. Now, in this scenario, a couple little things like this might seem basic for some of you guys that are here, but Sheila versus is this Sheila? It's like, I know it's Sheila. And even if it's not Sheila, it doesn't matter. Sheila, this is Jamie, just getting back with you because you requested that info on the life insurance for truckers, on the life insurance for nurses. You requested the info on the mortgage protection, the one that pays off your house if you die or become sick or disabled. Hey, you requested that information on the life insurance and funeral expenses for veterans. Hey, you requested that, info about final expense benefits, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. Just very direct. Here's who I am. Here's why I'm calling. And let me bring this back to the top of your mind. That's it. And then I want to go ahead and confirm some info as quickly as possible. So, confirming some info. Hey, you put down your date of birth as 8/15/93. Hey, you put down your email as sheiladay@gmail.com. Hey, you would put down that your favorite hobby was playing with your grandkids. You would put down that you wanted between $500,000 to $1 million worth of life insurance. You'd put down that you were in the army when you served. You would put down and then there's going to be some leads that don't give you extra information. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit we'll pretend we're talking about real-time leads right now. We'll go back to some aged leads for a kind of an alternate intro because it all ends up being the same. But, let's say this is someone who recently filled it out in like the last week. So you put down this, yes, okay, great. Hey, most people fill this out because they were looking for blank. Insert reason. Is that what you were looking for or something different? Hey, most people fill this out because they maybe saw something on Facebook that talked about, life insurance for truckers, paying out a lump sum if they die, leaving money behind for their spouse if they become sick or disabled, and saving for retirement with an IUL. Is that what you were looking for or something different? Hey, most people fill this out because they're a veteran who's looking for something to cover their final expenses that maybe the VA doesn't cover. Is that what you were looking for or something different? Hey, most people typically fill this out because they want to leave some money behind for someone or take care of funeral or final expenses. Is that what you were looking for or something different? And this question, is that what you were looking for or something different? Has been a huge thing for me over the last couple of years because it opens the door. It opens the door to, yes, that's exactly what I was looking for, or they have multiple needs. I've found final expense appointments that were like, yeah, I also want to pay off my house if I die. I've had mortgage protection appointments that were like, yes, I'd like to cover my house, but also I'd like to save for retirement. I saw a YouTube video about IULs. Like it just opens the door. Or you get the person who goes, I thought this was car insurance. That's a whole different thing. Or I was filling out something online because it said I got a free Amazon gift card and I ended up here. Like, I want to know very quickly if this is somebody who actually has really raised their hand. Like, everybody filled out the form. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone knows what they filled out, but everyone filled out the form. So I want to confirm and revoice. And when I confirm and revoice, is that what you were looking for or something different? And they say that's what I was looking for. That right there is like, it's go time. Like, you just told me that this is what you're looking for, and I have what you're looking for. I have confirmed interest. I've gone from the point of, kind of interested to no, I'm actually interested. So now your job is to not make it weird and book the appointment and get them to not hang up. So explain how it works. How do you make this not a big deal? Okay, great. Just need to schedule a quick 5 to 10 minute phone call to run through the info with you to see if you qualify or if we can even help you. And now it's time to clear the schedule. Now people go, isn't that a little misleading? 5 to 10 minutes? No, it's not, because it should only take you 5 to 10 minutes to find out what they're looking for you to ask the medical questions and see if they can qualify. And if they like, when I do an appointment, if it takes me 45 minutes, 25 minutes of that, 35 minutes of that is the application part or like the actual closing part. But to find out if I actually have what they're looking for, if I have a solution, and if they can qualify, really does take about 5 to 10 minutes. And if you find out quickly in the beginning that someone's not interested, you should not be spending 45 minutes on the phone call for them to give you a not interested at the end. So, hey, great. Just need to schedule a quick 5 to 10 minutes to run through the info with you to see if you can qualify, if we can help you. Clear the schedule. Okay, hey, this is where busy comes in. Hey, they got me running around like a crazy person. I talk to like 10 to 15 people a day. And I actually have 10 to 15 appointments a day. And if you're one call closing all day long, like, you should be talking to 10 to 15 people a day. So number one, you're busy. Number two, like, let's clear the schedule. Do you prefer a call in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening? What time do you typically get off work? Truck drivers, what time you typically off the road? Do you prefer a phone call when you're driving or when you're parked? Hey, you're a nurse. Like, what time do you go in? Are you working night shift? Are you working the mornings? Like, I want to know when they're actually going to be available. So one of the big mistakes that people make is they pull up their Google Calendar and they just kind of like book appointments in chronological order. Like, this is one of my biggest pet peeves ever. If I hear someone dialing and look at their calendar and they're like, I got an appointment tomorrow at 1, does that work? And the next person, I got an appointment at 2, does that work? It's not about filling in your schedule in chronological order. I'll be like, hey, when works for you? And they're like, Thursday at 6. Great. And the next one's Monday at 2. And then the next one's Saturday at 4. Like, I want to make sure, number one, I'm available, but number two, that they're available. It doesn't really matter if I'm available if I call them and they don't answer. So I want to clear that schedule. And if they're giving me any weirdness whatsoever, where like they're not sure, I'm going to slow down right here and I'm going to ask some clarifying questions. I should be off work at 6. Okay, hey, Sheila, what's the latest you've ever been off work? 6:30. How about I call you at 7 or 7:30 just to give you a little bit of time to settle in? So number one, I'm ensuring that the likelihood of them showing up is higher. And then number two, if they don't answer, I know they're probably at work. So just at the end of the day, clearing the schedule is one of the most important things. Number one is getting somebody in the beginning of the phone call to basically get past that point of, is that what you're looking for or something different? They've said they're interested. Like, if you can master getting steps 1 through 3, fantastic. And then the next is getting them to agree to an appointment and locking it down and clearing the schedule and make sure they're actually going to be there. I booked an appointment. Hey, let's lock it down. So when we were doing in-homes, I used to be like, hey, Sheila, go grab a pen. I want you to write down my name, my state license number, and I'll be showing up in a silver car with a black hat. And if you see someone knocking on your door, put the shotgun away. Like, now when we're doing telesale appointments, hey, Sheila, do me a quick favor, pull out your cell phone. I'm going to send you a text message right now with an appointment reminder and a link to verify my credentials. I just need you to do me one quick favor. Can you do that? Yeah. I just need you to text me back the word yes. That's it. Just text me back the word yes once the appointment has been booked. If you're using Lead Champ, which most of y'all are, the text message literally says text back the word yes. If you're not using Lead Champ, you should be, but everybody should be at bare minimum sending out at least one text message with a confirmation that they're going to be calling them at a certain time. So that's going to be your setting an appointment. And, before we move on to one call close, I want to talk a little bit about talking to aged leads. Okay. And I'm not going to go too deep in here, but with an aged lead, I mean, you got to get a little bit creative sometimes. But like for me, I used to call age mortgage protection. And I used to just kind of act confused. I'm like, hey, Nick, this is Jamie. You may or may not remember this, but a while back you had filled something out about mortgage protection. And it's been on my desk forever. And it looks like nobody ever took care of that. I'm actually just one of the managers calling, to help you out, get that reviewed, get this off our desk. Takes about 5 or 10 minutes. You had put down that your date of birth was, and it's just with aged leads, there's so many different routes that you can take. And we'll come out with a document in regards to a bunch of different script openers for aged leads, because I do think that that's really important. But at the end of the day, the goal is just to bring it back to the top of their mind. Thinking to, I think this is also a big thing as well, whether it's aged leads or a new lead. What was the experience of the person who filled this out? So if you know that this person filled out a Facebook form, hey, you had filled out something on my Facebook page. If you know that this person filled out a postcard, hey, you had got one of those little postcards in the mail and you filled it out and sent it back in. If you know that somebody did a call-in lead, hey, you had got that thing in the mail with the phone number on it and you called it. Like, I'm trying to bring their experience back to the top of their mind. Hey, you're probably driving down the road and you saw an ad about trucker life insurance and you clicked on it and wanted more information. Whatever that is, like I'm trying to bring it back to the top of their mind of what their experience was when they filled out the lead. If you're doing YouTube leads or Google leads, if you know, then bring it back to the top of their mind. If you are doing an internet lead, that's typically a more competitive lead. That's where hey, you probably filled something out and then your phone started blowing up with telemarketers like crazy and it was super overwhelming. And they're like, yeah, it's like you're like telling them their experience. So all that stuff, super important. And then once kind of, bring down the walls a little bit, just follow these simple principles. So it doesn't have to be that complex. One call close. Now, one call close is a little bit of a different beast. I'm not going to, again, dig into what the actual presentation looks like. But the goal is to get them to either one, be available right now to do the appointment right now, or if they're not available, to convert into a presentation. Now, I think one of the things I wrote down in my notes before this call is like, what are good, what are the best leads for appointments versus one call closes? Now, I'm just going to give my opinion. There's people who do all kinds of things. I know people who one call close on IULs. I just can't do it. That is not for me. I also depends on your lifestyle. So like for me, I have a lot going on. I got kids, I got a family, I got activities, I got church, I got community group, I got all kinds of stuff going on. I got a personal trainer. So for me, it's like, here's my blocks and I'm going to set appointments. Other people, like maybe they're less attached than I am and they've got, less responsibility and they're all in. So they just one call close all day long. That just doesn't work for me. But just in general, high intent, real time leads, IULs, truckers, nurses, brand new mortgage protection, like those are great for setting appointments. One call close, final expense, veterans, aged leads, internet leads, typically just because, and this is not trying to stereotype too hard, but somebody who has a job, someone who is working, someone that's more of a high intent lead typically answers their phone more often than somebody in like the final expense category, the age category, people who are form fillers. So like if they're a form filler, their phone is blowing up with calls all day long. So if you get them on the phone, like they might not ever answer you again. Like it was so lucky you even got them to answer in the first place. So keep that in mind. That one call closes, I think, especially when you got people who are retired or sitting at home, like that's the perfect time. I got guys who are like, I'm driving the truck down the road with 8,000 pounds, 70 miles an hour. I can't talk. I got a camera on me right now. And I got other guys who are like, oh, you need my bank account info? Don't worry. I'm just going 90 in a school zone. It's fine. And they'll do the whole presentation while driving. But one call close, I think it's you're gonna set yourself up for success more when you do one call close with people who are home all day as opposed to people who work. You can still do one call close with people who work, but I think you'll find like you can be like, I'm gonna do one call closes with all these truckers, but you have to be open to the idea of also setting some appointments. If you're just gonna one call close, that's cool. we'll go through that. So again, it's almost the same thing. Let the person know who you are and why you're calling, confirm that piece of info, and let them know this is only going to take 10 to 15 minutes, and ask them to grab a pen. Ask them to grab a pen. That's it. Hey, can you grab a pen, or can you open up your phone and write down some notes? And it's like the goal is to get them to, hey, like this is going to take a quick 5 to 10 minutes. You got time now, or do you want to schedule something? Simple as that. And then our goal is, really find the why, give some credibility, explain the process, go through the medical questions, the client inventory, explain some options, show the pricing, and close. But at the end of the day, like this is not that much different than this. The only difference is like after step one, we're just going to actually go into the real presentation. So who you are, why you're calling, confirm some piece of info. Hey, most people were looking for, insert. Is that what you were looking for or something different? Okay, great. This is going to take 5 to 10 minutes to run through. See if you can even qualify or if we can help you. Difference is instead of clearing the schedule, you're just going for the kill. Hey, this is going to take 5 or 10 minutes. Can you just go grab a pen, or can you pull out something to take notes? And if they say yes and they grab a pen or they pull out their phone to take notes, you're in a presentation. If they give you any level of hesitation, like they're not available right now, just switch back to booking an appointment. That's it. So it's like this whole thing right here. We don't even need to talk about steps 2 through 7. It's just step one. It's intro, and tell them to go grab a pen or take something to grab notes with. I go through who you are, why you're calling, confirm some info, confirm and revoice. Go grab a pen, pull out your phone, and either they're going to say yes or no. Simple as that. And if they say yes, you're in a presentation and you can continue on. And again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the presentation side of things, or you're going to go ahead and book an appointment. Now, when we get to objections, I think it probably would be cool to maybe one day do like a objection panel, because we haven't done one of those in a really long time. You'll find out that almost every single objection panel, like whether it's like objections on the front end or objections during the presentation, they all use this method, the AAA method. Hey, that makes perfect sense. Hey, that's exactly why I'm calling. Answer, and quickly address the objection, and ask a question. Like, regardless of whether you are in the middle of the appointment or you're trying to set the appointment, this is a great way to go ahead and overcome objections. Hey, what's this for again? Oh yeah, you might not remember this. This was for the life insurance info you requested online. You put down your date of birth as 8/15/93, correct? And we could insert 100 different scenarios in here. We're not going to spend too much time on it. But this is what happens when somebody tries to get you off the line. You got to pivot back on and keep going. And the goal is to book the appointment or keep it going. We're not going to spend time on the IUL presentation, but we've got this here. This is a document that will be available for you guys. This is myself and Josh Lockhart put together what we do when you start an IUL presentation and what it looks like. So we've got confirm what they're looking for, explain the basics of an IUL, the most common setups, determine what makes sense, determine their budget, go over the illustration or reschedule, start the application. And then for anybody who's working really any other lead type, this is just, you can insert the lead type here. Term and whole life presentation, find the why, give some credibility, explain the process, medical questions and client inventory, build value around the solution, explain the options, show the pricing, close and start the application. So this is just, again, principles. These are here to guide you. They're not here to be, a word for word script. If you want a word for word script, I think it can actually trip you up more because you get caught up in trying to say the exact words that other people are saying, as opposed to being yourself. Principles are principles. And if you watch anybody's stuff, you're going to see they're all following these principles. Last thing that I want to talk about is, when is it the right time to get someone to help you with like a dialer? Again, I even had a video that came out early 2025 that said I haven't dialed the phone in 6 months. Well, that was cool until lead flow changed. That was cool until my dialer started getting bad results. And then it was like either I keep not dialing the phone and I go out of business, or I start dialing the phone again. So my dialer and I, we work together. She books as many appointments as she can. I fill in all the gaps. In the beginning, it's just you. You're by yourself. You eat what you kill, and you have no help. And that's how it starts. And the goal is to get to the point where, number one, you've proven that you can book appointments or transition into presentations. And when you're basically 5xing your lead spend, like bare minimum, you should not hire anybody for anything if you're not 5xing your lead spend. Like you're gonna lose money. Like whether it's an assistant or it's a dialer, don't hire anybody unless you're 5xing your money. So if I spend 500 and I don't make at least 2,500, that's a problem. It's okay when you're brand new. Like my goal is just to make my money back when I'm brand new and try again. But if you're a seasoned agent who's trying to figure this out, you should be 5xing your money. The goal should be you want to 7 to 10x your money. Like that's always the goal, is to get to a point where I can make 7 to 10 times as much as I spent on the leads. So when it comes to hiring a dialer, number one, it's, do I have the consistent production and lead flow to even be able to support a dialer? Because if you're just getting 20 to 40 real-time leads a week, I don't know if you even need a dialer. Like you're getting 20 to 40, $40 leads, you can handle that on your own. But like for me, I'm getting 40 brand new leads a week, but I've also got 12,000 leads in my system that at one point were real-time leads. So we're doing a combination of calling the newest, most expensive leads first, calling my no-shows, calling my aged leads, following up on my think about it. So there's a lot going into it. It's not just let's dial and try to set appointments on the newest leads that come in. We've got a system and a method to our madness on what we're doing to call the newest ones, when we call them, how many times we call them, the aged ones, how often we follow up with our no shows. All that stuff is super important. So, one, don't hire a dialer until you have proven lead flow, proven production, you're consistently 5xing your money. But don't hire a dialer if you're not willing to work with your dialer and train your dialer. Like, I can't tell you how many people are like, Jamie, I hired a dialer and it went horrible. I'm like, how often did you talk to them? Well, I talked to them like once a month, and I just kind of was like, hey, you suck. You got to listen to their recordings. You got to get on with them. If you hear them saying something that you don't like, you have to address that quickly, or it's going to start to become a habit. So if you're not willing to train your dialer, if you're not willing to spend, I'm just moving so fast. I can't stop and spend. You have to slow down if you want to speed up. I hate that. It makes me angry every time that I say that. Because every time that we have to create a new process, I have to hire a new person, I have to do anything, create a new onboarding process, anything. I have to slow down to speed up. I just want to keep going fast. I don't want to slow down. But if you're going to bring somebody on to help you, like you have to. You have to slow down. Number one, of course, is you learn how to dial. And also, like, if you have not figured out how to dial yourself and you're just like, I'm just going to use money to shortcut this thing. If you don't know how to dial, you're not going to teach your person how to dial. And you have to like learn how to be meticulous for like what you're willing to even accept. Like, it's like, hey, that's not a real appointment. I know I told you my goal is 40 appointments a week. That appointment right there is not a real appointment. You call this person and you didn't do the things that we talked about. So like I'm listening to recordings and I'm a little bit more fancy. I've got some cool things set up in my Connect dialer where I have AI call summary that's running through this list. Did my dialer say who she was and why she was calling? Did she confirm a piece of info? Did she confirm and revoice? Did she explain how it worked? Did she clear the schedule? Did she offer multiple times? And did she lock it down and tell them to text back yes? So I literally have like a AI call summary that's listening to all my appointments being set. And it's like, yes, yes, no, 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 4 out of 7. Like, and it's like grading her. And then I'm like, okay, all my 4 out of 7s, I can go back and, give her some coaching to be like, hey, like, let's make sure we hit every single one of these every time. And it's like by doing these things, you increase your show rate. Um, that's the main thing. If you're setting appointments, like it's one thing to take people from the confirming that they're interested. Like that's great. That is overcoming objections 101. Perfect. But if you can't get people to actually show up for their appointments, that's also a big deal. So it's like booking appointments is a two-parter. First part is like confirming that interest and like overcoming any initial objections. And then the second part is actually clearing the schedule and making sure they're actually going to be there. Um, and then when it comes to one call close, it's just kind of one big mix of everything. I'll say this: if you one call close, you will never deal with no shows again because they're right there. But again, you're also going to hear the dial tone. A lot. You're gonna hear the dial tone no matter what. If you can't, if the dial tone drives you crazy, you might want to pick a different career. So at the end of the day, dialing the phone is the most important skill that you can have in this business. You can never get to a point where you're too good to dial the phone because this business is such a roller coaster that overnight anything can happen. You get a big charge back, you get something, some debt, some whatever, your leads stop working and your lead vendor goes out of business. AI doesn't work, whatever the thing is, and then it goes like out of nowhere, like, okay, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. And I want to make sure that I keep my dialing muscle strong because you never know what can happen. My dialer, she's in the Philippines. Guess what? They get hurricanes, they get earthquakes, their power goes out, and they get floods. And there's times you're like, sorry, I can't come in today because I have no internet and we have no power. So guess what? Either I get no appointments or I pick up the phone and start dialing. Um, Whatever it is, things happen. You got your brand new leads, your $40 leads, they're great. And then out of nowhere, your lead vendor goes, we just can't even produce those leads anymore. And you're like, crap, I don't have a new plan for leads. So let me go into the aged lead store and go buy 200 $2 leads because I need something and I just need to make something happen. So this is the skill set that you won't regret having because at the end of the day, you'll always know. Again, like I said in my Facebook post that I read out from a couple of years ago at the beginning, I don't want this to happen. Please, Lord, don't have this happen. But if you take everything from me and you left me with just $1,000 and I could go buy some leads, I could flip it into 4 to 7 policies. I know that I could because of the skill set. I don't want everything taken from me. I want to stay where we're at and keep growing forward. But having that confidence is a really big deal. And the way that you get that confidence is through repetition, 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 repetition. This business is not, it's not sexy. The results are sexy. The activity is not. The activity is not at all. It's actually pretty monotonous, and we do the same thing repetitive over and over and over and over and over again. But it's also pretty predictable. If I dial the phone enough times, I can basically predict what's going to happen. Jim Rohn, I talked about him in the beginning. We talked about, make up the numbers what you lack in skill. He also talked about if you do something long enough, a ratio appears. I talked about that on the call with John Wetmore last week, and that's what we'll close out with, is if I do something long enough. So if I dial the phone long enough, if I work this business long enough, if I set enough appointments long enough, a ratio will appear. I'll know that if I get 40 appointments, 40 presentations, in general, here's how much business I typically close. And if I can figure out what that number is, the only thing that needs to change is I just need to turn the dial on one of these little activity knobs. I can double my lead flow and basically double, triple my results. I could double, triple my dialing and maybe double, triple my results. But I'm not just going to randomly double my closing percentage. You're just not going to randomly do that. Like that takes time. That is like a slow build. And you get more confident and momentum hits and you get better and people just stop telling you no. They stop giving you the objections they would in the beginning. So I can't control when my closing percentage goes up. There might be one week where everybody says yes, guys. There are still weeks. Yesterday, I started the call with some humor. The reason I was so angry at this guy who, yanked my chain and pretended like he was a lead, but he's really an agent and then judged me, said I was a 7 out of 10 presentation, and haha, you didn't sell any insurance today. The reason I got so angry is because I had 15 appointments yesterday and I couldn't close anything. People were actually showing up. I was getting all the think about it's in the world. So that happens too. But then you also have days where everybody says yes. But at the end of the day, the only thing that I can control is the activity. And yeah, I guess technically I can control my mindset. And my mindset probably played into people saying no and think about it and all the things. But I don't get to decide when my closing percentage is great. But I do get to decide when I decide to buy more leads, and I do get to decide how many times that I dial the phone or how many appointments that I am going to sit down and set until. I mean, that's the biggest answer. I'll do it until I have 40 appointments, until I talk to this many people. It doesn't matter. So once you figure out what your ratios are because you've been doing this long enough, then it's math, then it's fun, then it's just literally let me change one variable in this equation and it will pop out an entirely better result by dialing up, one thing in the equation. So I hope this helps. there's obviously so much more that we could dive into. Um, we'll plan on doing more calls like this. I'd love to do something on objections and aged leads and things like that. Next week, we've got a really great call coming up with one of our new lead vendor partners, and I think 5 or 6 lead champ users that exclusively use his leads. And we're excited to introduce that to our community for everybody to get to know them and potentially partner with them. But everybody, thank you so much. Nick, thank you for hosting. Everybody have a great day. If you want to dial, we've got the big room open as well as all the breakout rooms. So everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you next time. See you guys.